Hey guys, welcome to Cultured. It's your girl Bromley. Today we're going to talk about relationships, and I have an amazing couple in front of me to talk about this topic, and I can't wait for you guys to meet them. Let's get to it. Like I said, guys, today we're going to talk about relationships, and I have this amazing couple in front of me to talk about this topic, and I could not think of a more suited couple for this topic. And I want to introduce the lady of this dynamic duo first. She's the incredibly beautiful Andrea Ramos. Do you want to say hi?
Hey. Oh my gosh, we are so excited. Seriously. We can't believe you would be like, would you be on our podcast? And we're like, no other podcast would rather talk about.
Oh, so glad. And the man of this dynamic duo is the incredibly handsome Noah Ramos.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, here I am in the flesh. So good to be here.
Oh, thank you guys so much for joining me. I am so grateful for you guys. By the way, guys, just like a little backstory of this couple. They are the pastors of the church that I go to here in Bulgaria. And they are the parents to 4 incredibly handsome boys, and they have 2 dogs. And they're just constant reminders of just incredible leadership. And they've opened up an environment for students like myself to just, and not just students like myself, like people from different age groups and backgrounds to just grow in the environment and to know their purpose in God. So I'm so grateful. I repeat that. I'm so grateful to know you. And so, like I said, we're going to talk about relationships, particularly romantic relationships.
Oh, my favorite.
I was going around in my group and I was asking people if they had any questions regarding relationships, and surprisingly, it was the single people who had more questions than the ones who were in relationships. I'm not going to drop any names, but Ronald did have a lot of questions.
You totally just threw him under the bus.
Because he kept telling me, like, don't say my name.
Hi, Ron.
Hey, Ron.
Just kidding. And so I'm so glad. So I can't wait to get to it. I'm going to leave the floor to you guys. So I just want to start by asking you guys, like, a sweet question. Like, how do you guys keep your love alive?
We just celebrated 16 years of marriage. And that's a really great question, because through life, ministry, kids, dogs, did I mention the dogs? Please. Yeah, it has to be intentional. My husband and I just went away for 2 nights of bliss where we just talked about stuff that it's just hard to find time to talk about in the middle of craziness, and just reconnected. And I think those times are really important. But they're kind of hard to make happen when you have 4 kids.
Totally. Communication, connection is key. I think a lot of people have bought into the lie of Hollywood of this happily ever after, and you'll always feel like you're in love. And that's just a lie. Just like with any relationship, marriage it's work. It's commitment and devotion. And without connection and without communication, you're doomed for failure. So there are times when I feel so in love with my wife, and there's times when I have to choose to love her. And I'm sure it's the other way around too. But she makes it easy. She's an easy one to love.
He brought me flowers last night just because.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
Once every 12 years.
Yeah, once every 12 years. That's how we keep our love alive. Flowers.
How many years have you guys been married?
16.
16 years.
Together 18?
Yeah.
18 and a half?
18,
Yeah.
something.
Oh, amazing.
So we've been together longer than we've not been together.
So weird.
Oh, wow. Wow. I was going to ask, this might be a little personal question, but...
we don't do those.
Yeah, you don't do those. I wanted to ask, because what was different about Noah, or for Noah, Andrea? Like, what was different about, as to why you guys picked each other over other people you've liked in the past? Or, if not, okay, that's okay. But what is the reason that stood out for you about the other person?
So I shouldn't say, I made a huge mistake and I chose the wrong person at this point in time. No, I'm just kidding. That's a horrible joke.
That's hilarious, babe. Thank you.
That's a horrible joke.
Well, I love how you say picked, because a lot of times people think that they fall into love, or it's not their
Right.
choice, or they're, because it really is you pick and choose who you're gonna spend the
Yeah.
rest of your life with. So it's a great question, but go ahead, babe.
It's a great question. For me personally, I don't know. I'd had some relationships in the past, and I'd had a real clear word from God to wait for the right one, that measured up to what God had said to me about my life, about what He's called me to. And so when Noah came on the scene, I was just so focused on God. I was so focused on what He called me to. We were in Bible school, and I wasn't looking, and I didn't even notice him for another year and a half after we met, probably. So even
That's so good.
It was. But then when I finally noticed you, it was those things that God had placed in my heart, the purpose and plans for my life that mirrored Noah's.
Yeah, I would say why I picked Andrea is, I fell in love with her. I mean, of course, she was cute. She had this little country girl thing going on, sweet little country girl thing going on, which it's hard to tell
Pretend
because
like that didn't ever happen.
no, that's who you were, and
That's what happens when you grow up 3 hours away from a mall. Please.
yeah. So for me, I fell in love with her spirit, like just her fun, loving, kind, outgoing, always wanted to be, social butterfly, because a lot of those things were not what I am. I'm an extroverted introvert, meaning I know my calling is to be around people and to love people and encourage people, but I need to be alone. I'm very introverted, and she's opposite. She loves people and loves to be around people. So it was definitely her spirit. And then when we come to the picking part, it's so important that you pick somebody who has the same destiny as you, or else you will grow apart. If your destinies aren't intertwined, if God's calling on your life isn't intertwined, if your purpose in life isn't the same, or at least connected, or you can't encourage each other in that, then you're building two separate lives, and I feel like that's a big reason why people grow apart. So it was where we wanted to be was the same, and that was important for us.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh, thank you guys for that. And so some of the questions that came up when I was asking people was like how do you identify like an unhealthy relationship?
How do you identify an unhealthy relationship?
Well, I'd say if you read 1 Corinthians 13 and the relationship that you're in or that you're interested in creating with a person isn't based on that kind of love, on God's love, then it's the wrong base. We're called to serve each other in love, to lay our lives down for each other. And if the focus is what can I get from this relationship or how can I be happy, it's the wrong focus, and you're going to get the wrong results. You're going to get an unhealthy result. So if what you want is health, then you've got to have the correct foundation, and that's true love, sacrificial love.
What's tough too is when you're young, you're entering into relationships a lot based on the potential of the person, because they're not where they're going to be, and you're like, well, I see potential in this person of what they may become. Like Andrea and I were talking.
Especially with you. Uh-huh.
Okay, thank you. Andrea and I were talking the other day about how she married me, partly, for who I was, but also who she saw in me, in the future, which is scary, because you can't get involved with somebody based on potential alone, because who's to say they'll ever reach that potential, and then you are disappointed or depressed or whatever, that person isn't what you expected them to be. So that's one side. But then the other side is like, no one is completely healthy. We're all on the journey of health. I think, you look for a few qualities. If you're a girl, like I was never dating material ever. I mean, I was an introvert. I was like, if you see my serious face, if looks could kill, like people stay away from me when I have that focused look on my face. Like I wasn't marriage material. I mean, I wasn't dating material, but I was but I was marriage material because there's a few qualities that you got to look for. And if you're a woman looking for a man, and one of them is like humility, and also like, is this man willing to, just like Andrew said, sacrifice and lay down his life for me, but also is he willing to be teachable? Is he willing to commit himself to become a better person? And if all you see is pride in that person or arrogance, like that is a huge red flag. Also, like Andrew says, a relationship is something that two people put into, and it has to be equal parts. If one person is giving more than the other, it's unhealthy. If you're overextending yourself, or you're giving too much energy or emotion or devotion or all those things more than the other person, it's lopsided, then you probably need to take a step back and reevaluate.
Wow. Did you guys always like have that peace with you? Like when you met each other, did you always, because we always talk about that peace, that God gives you. Did you always have that when you guys?
Did you always have that peace?
Well, when I got into my head about it, I didn't have any peace, So I'm trying to figure it out. Like, what if I see this glimpse of the person that he could be, and he's on the way to that. But we were in our early 20s, and it was like, that trust fall was a bit scary. But then when I went back to, okay, like, what do I like about him? What draws me to him? And just seeing like the purpose and plan that I could see that God had on his life. Then I was like, okay, God, like, if he's not the right one for me, I want him to disappear, like, out of my life. Because as much as my heart is wanting something with him, like, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, I wanted God's first choice for me. I didn't want to miss it and then be like, God, please redeem that. Like, I just wanted his first choice. And so, but then he let me choose. But I think that is the peace. The peace helps you follow what he has best for you.
That's good.
What
about you, Noah? Did you have the peace?
I did. Like, there were times when, we're both very strong in our opinions. I'm stubborn, and
no way. What?
She's hard-headed.
And opposites, like you already mentioned that.
Yeah, like we're like opposite personalities, which, they say opposites attract. But
they attract and they fight a lot too.
Yeah, so our relationship, especially in the beginning, was explosive, and we're both very loud and emotional, and so
we were immature, super immature.
Totally.
Especially you.
Some of us were definitely more immature than others. But I think, I was probably a few weeks away from proposing. And I'm riding in the car with a friend of mine, and I'm like, bro, I just don't know. I just don't know if she's the one. I don't know if it's the right timing. I don't know if I should propose. And my friend looked at me and said, "You're an idiot. You're an idiot. You guys are perfect for each other. You're made for each other. Your destinies are aligned, and you both believe the same thing, and you're on the same road." And he's like, "You're an idiot for not just going ahead and doing it." And I'm like, "You're right." That was, and kind of like Andrew said, when you get in your mind and you try to, you talk yourself out of things that you're not supposed to. So
that's why it's good to surround yourself with good friends who will be telling the truth.
Exactly. So the peace, I didn't necessarily have the peace, because in the end, I felt like God was saying, it's your choice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get to choose. You get to choose to be with her or not be with her. And you look back over, I looked back over a relationship and saw that God's hand was in it, and took the plunge.
So you guys mentioned you guys are opposites, and you guys have your conflicts. So how do you deal with that? I had so many questions regarding conflicts, when it comes to confrontation, and there was questions regarding how do you go forward with confronting an issue, and also how do you deal with conflict? So I think it kind of goes hand in hand.
Were there any questions about submission and how a wife should submit?
Actually, there is right now. I do have a question. I was going to get to that.
I wonder who asked that one. Sorry, go ahead.
Conflict. Like early on, we've had like our first year married, first year, second year married. Like there were some things like I communicated to him. I'm like, hey, listen, it's obvious we're going to fight. Like I'm kind of, at first it was like, what? Why are we fighting so much? I thought we loved each other.
Yeah, because your parents never fought.
Oh
ever.
my gosh, I never saw my parents argue. I've never like seen my parents argue. I've seen them disagree, and it was like they'd say each other's names, Jan, Lorraine. That's it.
Wow.
It was like, oh my gosh, they have a disagreement, like literally. And then it was like Noah and I. It was like, oh my gosh, we loved each other fiercely. And we fought just as fiercely, but a lot of it in the beginning was immaturity and insecurity.
I think you need to redefine fight, conflict, disagreement.
Yes, like basically.
We never fought. Like we never went like.
No, because I would lose. Like you're like 3 times my size. I would lose every time. But no, we pushed each other. We pushed each other's buttons. We pushed each other to the point of snapping, like losing our cool. Said things we shouldn't have said. But there were a few things like that we decided early on, like we're going to fight fair. And then those changed. Like that wasn't fair what you did or whatever. First of all, when we decided to get married, we decided marriage is forever. There's no exit plan. We're never going to use the word divorce. It never was going to be an option. We weren't going to use it to manipulate each other or beat each other up. Like it just was off the table. Like we've never said, okay, well, I'm just going to leave or whatever. And then another thing that we always were like, we're never, is I'm like, you're not allowed to leave the house angry.
And
which you did a couple times.
I did a few times,
which really crushed me. And then it took a while to heal after those couple times that you did leave angry, because I was like, I just can't. Like if he leaves in the middle of us destroying each other with our words and just like whatever, and what if he got in a car accident and I'd never be able to live with myself? Like, and so.
And for me in those situations, I was like, I need space. Like,
which I didn't understand.
I can't look at you. I can't be around you and come to a point where, I just need time alone with my thoughts and alone with God. And so I needed that, but I didn't know how to communicate that either. Yeah.
And I didn't, like, it's taken years for me to understand that he needed space, because I felt like space meant he doesn't love me anymore. Mm-hmm. And so, hence the don't leave the house thing, because I'm like, that is like the epitome of you don't love me if you're going to leave me angry. And who knows when you're coming back. And then there was this torment in my mind of like, is he alive? Well, I'm going to kill him if he's not. And just like crazy. But, there we had one argument that I remember the Holy Spirit speaking to me so clear that, like we were arguing about something. I don't even know what it was, but it was a really heated argument. And he didn't leave the house. He left our room and he slammed the door. And I remember talking to God and being like, God, you need to talk to him. He's so messed up. You gotta like help him, and when I took a breath, the Holy Spirit said, yeah, I got him. Let's talk about you. And it was just this like, okay, I am not in any way responsible for him. I am responsible for me. I can change me. I can't change him. And it showed me that I can be responsible for me. I can let God change me, and I can also pray for him. And the greatest, like all the areas that drove me crazy and the things that I wanted to push him towards being a better man, all those things were never changed by me telling him what he needed to change, which was super frustrating.
You tried to do that.
I tried to do that.
Often.
I did, because you needed a lot of help, but like you never listened.
Unbelievable.
But I did see those things change when I prayed for you consistently, and I laid you at God's feet and was like, God, change me too.
Yeah, Andrea is a fireball of emotion, like literally. Like she cannot speak without emoting how she's feeling.
Isn't that normal?
No, that's not normal. I'm a man.
For girls, yeah.
I'm a man, and I have a few feelings. I have hunger and anger, and those those are about it.
Hunger and anger, that's it.
Yeah. I don't know. Other stuff too, I guess, but we don't need to talk about that. So I think from a man's perspective, it's like you want to brush off your significant other's feelings because it's like you just dismiss them. You're just a woman. Can you just for a minute think logically, which is hard sometimes for women to do. Sorry, listeners and ladies. But I think one core thing that women need is to be heard and understood. Like that is like a core value for most women is I need you to hear me, not what I'm saying, but I need you to see the heart of how I feel, how I'm feeling. And once I learned that, things got a lot better in our conflict. Like she'll be, talking in a very interesting tone to me about something. And I'll stop and I'll be like, okay, wait, you're not really mad about this thing, are you? You're mad because you feel neglected or unappreciated. Or he goes, yeah, that's right. Yeah. And so I think it's important for men to see past just what's going on in the outside. Andrea is also very good at resolving conflict. She will not let anything go. Like maybe once or twice in our marriage have we not resolved conflict before going to bed or whatever. And I think that's super healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you need time, but I think when you have two people who are so strong-willed that they're not willing to say they're sorry or not willing to actually dig into the problem, it creates bitterness and an unhealth. You asked about a red flag. It's the unwillingness to resolve things.
Right.
And the unwillingness to be honest and talk about like vulnerable things. Those are big red flags. But Andrew's really good at let's resolve this. We're not going to move past it. And I'm good at stonewalling. So I'm like, I'm good. I don't need to talk about it. Like I can just torture you with silence, and and that's not healthy either. Yeah.
Which then just makes you even more hard and bitter, the stonewalling and the.
I was like, you said. So, what are some things over the years you've decided like we're not going to do that, and has that made the relationship or conflicts better in some say because we are people who are in relationships. So is there something that you guys are like, no, we've stopped doing that, so we ended up being better in this area?
Name calling is one of them. Like we've done that. Like you're a jerk, or you're other words that shouldn't be calling each other. But I think you say things in conflict because you're trying to hurt somebody else. And those things are unnecessary. Like articulate your feelings, articulate how this person affected the way that you're feeling, to articulate how what you're feeling on the inside. But you don't need to bash the other person or bring up the past. That's one thing we don't do.
Yeah.
We've decided that if we're gonna forgive and move on, we're not gonna bring up past mistakes, and we're not gonna. It's not like we bring up the file or the Rolodex of like
you always
do
never.
You never. We decided not to say those things because
that's really good.
You never appreciate me. It's like, well, we're back at ground zero. We're gonna dig up all these things that we're supposedly forgiven each other about, and we're gonna punish each other for it. So like that's.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
Well, and we always chose to not just say, I'm sorry, but to say, will you forgive me? Because when you ask a question like, will you forgive me for hurting you? Will you forgive me for saying that? I didn't mean to hurt you. Or will you forgive me for trying to hurt you? Whatever, all those things. But will you forgive me? Then it's like, it costs you something. And it's like, is the other person going to say yes or no? It's up to them. But we chose, because it's a humility thing.
Yeah, sorry's easy. Sorry's the easy way out. It's so, you say it so many times it doesn't mean anything. Yeah. Well, will you forgive me is like you're taking a position of humility and asking somebody to forgive you for you.
And we've like in our local church and stuff, like all through our beginning of our marriage and stuff, we chose to invest in our marriage with small groups, and we did small group studies with other couples, and we learned some really good tools about how to get off a crazy cycle of someone has to get off the crazy train. Someone has to choose to be the more mature one, even if they feel
and that
like
means
it's,
that means apologize or take responsibility for their actions,
Yeah.
because what happens is when I'm hurt, I'm gonna hurt you. And then when you're hurt, you're gonna hurt me. And it just goes round and around in this crazy cycle. And so someone has to be like, no, I'm gonna take responsibility for what I did, regardless of whether or not you take responsibility for what you did. I'm gonna be the mature person.
And another thing that Noah has learned how to do in conflict is to be like, even if it's something unresolved, something we can't see eye to eye on yet, and that's so hard for me because I want conflict resolved. Like now.
I think it's important to know too, like, there are some things that you're not going to agree on.
Yeah.
There are some things that you're not going to agree on. There's certain things that you have to, like how you gonna raise your kids, how you going to resolve conflict, those types of things. But there's some things that you're not going to agree on. Like, I don't want pizza tonight. Well, I want pizza, or it's not. That's just an example, but yeah.
Yeah, he'll say to me, "I choose you." Even before we're still frustrated with each other. We have heightened emotion. The stakes are high, and he'll just look at me and be like, "I choose you. Like, it's gonna be okay. We're gonna work this out," which then helps me to give him some more space to process and to take my needs to God.
Oh, that's really good. I had a question. I think you guys touched on that. So you said bringing up each other's past. Do you guys think it's a good idea to tell your significant other everything that you've done in your life?
Absolutely. Yeah, but not.
It's not like a first date thing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Like, here, this is all the people that I screwed up with. Like, no, don't do that. But I would say, like, if you're making steps towards marriage, or that is the direction you're going, I think it's important to I mean, we did it, shared everything with, the past and everything, because you don't want to keep secrets from that person. Let's say you're walking on the street one day and you bump into somebody that you had a relationship with, or, whatever. And then it's like, it's a secret bond with somebody else. We made a decision very early on in our relationship that we were going to be transparent. I'm going to tell you everything. Yeah. And I'm not going to hold anything back, and there's not going to be any secrets between us, because those secrets are like they're a wedge that will grow over time.
Yeah.
And as painful as it is and can be, and as embarrassing too for some of the stupid crap you've done, it's important. Like, if you're committed to this person, then they need to know your journey.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good.
And like when we were engaged, I remember I finally trusted Noah with like the deepest pain in me, which was like I was sexually abused when I was younger, and I hadn't shared it with anyone. But I was like, I was so afraid of how he would look at me, what he would say, how he would judge me. I was terrified. But I also had this revelation that I didn't want to carry this baggage into our marriage. And I really believed that God could help us, like, to heal it now, and not that it wouldn't affect our sex life, wouldn't affect how I viewed my husband. And I'm so thankful for this, like, because I remember exactly where we are, exactly what I told you. And the way you responded was so incredible. Like, the way you responded was like, hey, that wasn't your fault. Like, and you know that. But at that point in time, I was so new on the healing journey. I was like, it must have all been my fault. It's like, but you were like, no, it's not your fault. And we're going to pray right now. And we're going to leave this here. Like, we're not going to drag this into our marriage. So whether it's stupid things that you've done or things that were done to you, God is so incredible. Like, in marriage is such a beautiful thing that you can make that choice to be vulnerable with each other and to really guard each other. Like, and he has so been, like, he's always been a safe place for me. Like, in that first, like, that was right before we got married, but I knew from that moment, he's going to be a safe place for me.
Yeah. And obviously we're pastors. I know some of your listeners might not be believers or follow Jesus, but, we believe when you put your hope and your faith in Jesus, that he forgives your past. Like, he forgives your mistakes, and he makes you brand new, which is awesome. But also, your past defines you. your past has made you who you are today. Whether you've been neglected or abused, things that your parents have done to you, or classmates, or trusted people, or all of those things have shaped you into who you are today. And if you're making a commitment to somebody and you're not sharing the things that have shaped you and made you who you are, then you're closing a door of understanding for them into your life. So they need to know your journey, what made you that way. And so when things are triggered, even now 16 years in, when things are triggered, or when she feels unheard or unloved, or I don't care to know where she's coming from. I know that this has been shaped by her past, and it's my job to help her in the healing process. And I think that's important. Jesus forgives your past, but it's also good to go back there and know that this is why I am the way I am,
And then you let him heal you.
Yeah, exactly.
And without glancing back, you can't really stare into the future very well. Like, if you still have all those ugly things in your past, then it will affect your future. But if you let the light shine, the light of Jesus shine on those things, then he will heal and set free and restore. It's amazing what God can do when you let him shine his light on those things.
We glance into the past, we don't stare. It's not, we don't live there, but it's good to know what has shaped us and made us who we are.
Yeah, I get that from our pastor, Christine Kane. She says you glance into the past to stare into the future. So, and the other thing that we've learned along the journey is that the Holy Spirit reveals what he wants to heal. And it's our choice whether to let him in to heal those places. And at times I pushed it back down, like, no, I don't want you to look at those things or touch those things. It hurts too bad. I'm too scared or whatever. But every single time I've chosen to trust him to heal the things that he's revealing, those broken places in me. God's so faithful, and he never leaves us broken. He actually heals us, which is so incredible. He really has set us free to be fully free. Yeah. But it's a journey.
Wow. I did, I had a question actually about, because we said the submission question, so I wanted to ask,
oh yeah, now we talking.
And so it's I don't know. It generally is, especially if you're like an Indian, I was raised in Indian, so you submission is a huge part. So how much should a girl? I would love to hear both your perspectives and submit to their husband. Yeah.
Fully. Hello, fully.
Goodness. Early on in our marriage, I knew that Noah needed my respect, and I knew that I needed his love, but I didn't know, I thought that I could withhold respect from him if I didn't feel like he was deserving of respect. And that was something that we learned in group. In our group at church was that, when I take respect away from Noah, that I am taking the air he breathes. Just like if I expect that he'll love me no matter what, right? Because we've chosen to be together forever, and we've chosen to enter into this covenant of marriage and all these things. Well, he has to love me forever, and there can't be one moment where he doesn't love me. And I'm like, wait a second, but what if he didn't love me based on whether he felt like I deserved his love or not? And I realized I was doing that. That's not fair. You
were expecting unconditional love, but not giving unconditional respect.
Right. Right. Because love, it's so confusing, especially for me, for a female, because I feel like respect is more of an earned thing. I earn your respect by being my amazing self. I don't know, but love is you chose to love me, so you've got to love me. And just realizing that no one needs my respect. He needs the air he breathes. I need the love. He needs respect.
So good. You didn't talk about submission, but that's really good.
Well, because submission is
Can I go? And then you can.
Sure,
and then you can.
Fine, you may.
So I think.
Because I respect you.
Well, I love you. So there you go. I think the scripture that's used to push the submission agenda is found in Hebrews, or not Hebrews, but I think it's in Ephesians, where he says that wives submit to your husbands as the church does Christ. And what's left out is the husbands, love your wives as Christ does the church. And
gave himself up for her.
Yeah, laid his life down, gave himself up for her. So the submission part's easy when the loving part is happening.
Totally.
So like if Andrea knows that there is nothing that I won't do, there's nothing I won't sacrifice, nothing I won't give up to see her be who God's called her to be, that come to her full potential. And submitting is easy. It's not a heavy word that you put on someone to make them obey or make them do what you want them to do.
And when you do, there's lacking love.
There's no love in like forced submission. But it's not a burden. I don't think Andrea maybe can talk more about that, but we don't. I'm not a husband that demands submission. You know, I think this is it's a partnership. But she also is so good at knowing that when we come to an impasse in our relationship or a disagreement or a decision that we need to make and we maybe don't see eye to eye, she's always like, I trust you, and you can make the decision. And one thing that she's really good at too is like when I make mistakes, because I make them often.
You don't.
She doesn't hold them over my head, you know? And that's part of being submissive too, is like, I'm not going to say I told you so. You know, I disagreed with you, made a decision, didn't work out. But I'm going to submit when I, you know, because a lot of times when we're in conflict or we disagree, we're like, fine, do it your way. And we'll see how it is. And then when it turns out we want to hold that thing over that person's head, which is unhealthy. But
super
you can't
unhealthy.
have submission without love. Like you can't.
Yeah.
And I think if a wife really wants to love and respect her husband, she'll submit to him. But again, all of that comes through communication, connection, and transparency, I think.
Yeah. So good. There's a verse that has challenged me and really helped me in this area. And it in Proverbs it says that I can't remember what it says now. Basically, that you can tear down your house around your head. And then times I've been like, I'm tearing my house down around my head, like on purpose. Whether it's, you're like, no, I feel like we should do this. And I'm like, I don't think so. And then I'm like, wait, like if I choose to, like you said, be like, why'd you do that? I told you shouldn't have done that. See, I told you so. You should listen to me more often. I'm literally tearing our relationship down and our house down. And I can instead build it up by, okay, babe, I'm not sure about that. And here's what I think, or here's what I feel, but I trust you because you are really the one who is responsible to God for our relationship and for our family. Like he carries that weight. And I can build our house by supporting Noah and the decisions that he makes.
Yeah. And if I could talk to you men for a minute, it's weird because I'm the only man in this room, but talk to you men for a minute and say, like, you take the lead. Like, you take the lead. A man has become, I know this term gets thrown around a lot, but a snowflake in their leading. A woman doesn't want to marry a boy. She doesn't want to marry somebody that she's got to take care of. And you have to realize that you lead in the relationship. You lead in love. You lead in sacrifice. You lead in maturity. And a lot of times, like, we just are consumers. Like, we're too busy playing video games. We're too busy, which I love video games, by the way. I love playing video games. But at the same time, like, you are created to lead, to step up and be the man that you're supposed to be. I read 1 Corinthians 13. Andrea talked about it earlier. I read it, and instead of saying love is patient, love is kind, I read it, a real man is patient, a real man is kind, a real man doesn't fail, you know. And I think it's important that before we can expect a woman to be a woman, a man needs to be a man, and that leads in every aspect of the relationship. Boundaries, physical boundaries is important for men to lead. Don't expect your chick to hold that line if you're wanting to stay pure, and like that's on you, guy.
Oh, that's really good. I just have one last question, and so this, it was, are there any myths about marriage?
Oh my gosh, are there any myths?
Complete me. Like this?
Yes, yeah. Any sort of myths that people believe before they, like, from media and whatnot, and that's actually not true.
Absolutely. None of that is true. Like, I wish I would have known that earlier on. Like, I knew it. I think I knew it. But I still lived like my expectations were that you would complete me, that you would fill every hole and I would feel so overwhelmed by your love that nothing else would matter.
Yeah, that's God's job, not mine.
Exactly. And I tried to get from Noah what I can only get from God in the earlier years, for sure, because of the culture, because of what the world says. And they're like, now I know there's a God-shaped hole in each and every one of us. And when that's filled, when we let God fill that God-shaped hole, we are such a blessing to each other. And when we don't, when we try to get from each other what only God can give to us, the other person fails. Like it's an unrealistic expectation. And so, then we're disappointed. And then we're like, they must not be the right one. They don't love me well. And it's like, wait a second. I'm expecting a person to fill a God-shaped hole in me. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, another myth is that marriage is the end. It's the end of romance. It's the end of all those things. And the truth is that it's the beginning. Like marriage is the beginning of adventure. Yeah. Like your single life is over. It's done, and it's the beginning of a brand new adventure. It's like having a best friend that never has to go home. It's like a forever sleepover, and you get to sleep naked, which is awesome too. So yeah, marriage is fun. It never gets tired or boring if you're working at making it better. I think it's all about your expectations of it and the work that you put into it, just like anything else. Another myth on marriage is that you have sex all the time, which is you do in the beginning, but then life and stuff, and like this.
And sex drives change.
Yeah, sex drives change. But I was going to also say, especially if you have been addicted to porn or watching porn, you have unrealistic expectations for sex, and that you expect sex to fulfill you. But the truth is, your job in sex is to fulfill your partner, and it's just porn is so bad because it paints a fantasy world that will never be satisfied ever. But when you have sex in marriage, it's the most fulfilling, fun thing that you could do. And so, having sex with one person for the rest of your life is exciting because you get to figure out new ways to make it exciting. And I think that's important especially for young people to know, I need to get some experience before I get married. No, you don't. No, you don't.
That was one of the greatest gifts we gave each other was that we were each other's first. You were my first kiss, even.
Yeah, it's true.
But just that we figured sex out together, all the awkwardness, all the all the things, but we figured it out together, and it gets funner and funner.
Totally.
And better. Totally.
Don't believe the lie that the world's pushing.
Yeah.
That's all it is a lie.
That's really good. I thought that was all of my questions, but one last question.
Hey, we can do this again. We can for reals. Love to.
So it's it's more like a single person question. How do you prepare? What are some things that you wish you worked on before getting into a relationship?
Well, I wish I did more sit-ups and push-ups. That's for sure. No, I mean, it's relationships and marriage is all about dying to yourself. I heard it once said that marriage isn't to make you happy. It's to make you holy. It's to make you more like Jesus. And so if you're looking to get into a relationship or marriage to fulfill some need that you have, you're getting in it for the wrong reason. The one thing I would have worked on more, or would have liked to have worked on more, was just getting closer to God, like working on myself on the inside. How's my character? How's my thought life? Like, what am I doing? And what am I, God doesn't bring two halves and bring them together as a whole, because you still have two broken people trying to make each other whole, and that's impossible. So trying, letting God allow you to be healed and to be whole before you're married is probably the best advice I could give to somebody who's single. Don't bury your problems thinking that marriage is going to solve them, because it's not. It's gonna amplify them. It's going to multiply them. Yeah. So I'd say that.
For sure. I'd say the same. And I'd say you will never have the time back of being single. Like, unless your husband dies or your wife dies, right?
Oh,
like,
that got dark quick.
You'll never have that time back. Like, I'll never have that time in my early 20s and teenage years and whatever, where I was really my time was God's time, God and my friends. And so I spent that time in the Word. Like, I disciplined my life, like, to be like, God, I want you to speak to me. I want you to change me. I want you to grow me into who you call me to be. And I wanted to be as ready as possible as I could be to be married, so that I would be a blessing. But it's a journey. Like, it's not about, okay, hurry up and get myself ready to be married. It's like, no.
That's exactly it. Singleness isn't just a waiting period to get.
Yeah.
It's not like you're in the waiting room to get married. It's God has a purpose and a plan for you right where you're at. And so discovering that and living in that fullness is the priority. And it's not, singleness isn't punishment until you get married. It's not, even though it feels like it. I know it does. It's not. It is one of the most grace-filled, incredible times. And I think when you approach it, not like, okay, when am I going to get married? Or where's my husband? Or that dude's kind of hot, or she's banging, none of those things. Like, I'm here to make the most out of this season that God has me in. It's so important.
Exactly. And we had our pastor back in the day, like our Bible school pastor, he said, like, when talking about how do you find that right person, it was like, you're running hard after God. Like, he's painted this picture. You're running hard after God, which is like what we've been talking about. Like just chasing God down. Like, no matter what everybody else is doing around you, we're not sucking in the lies of the culture around us, but we're chasing God down, chasing His truth down, chasing His presence down. And all of a sudden, you look next to you, you look alongside you, and there's someone running next to you, and you're like, hey, you want to run together? And then you get married and you run together. Awesome. And that's really how it was for us. It was like we were running hard after God, and then we were like, hey, do you want to run hard after God together?
Yeah. And I would also say, don't be attracted to the sexiness of something that's here today and gone tomorrow. Like, I think when you are seeking a love that's deep, devoted, loyal, sacrificing, just like Jesus' love for us, if these are the things that you're looking for in a relationship, then you need to be those things.
Yeah.
Before you can ever ask or require someone else to do it, you need to be those things. And I think that love is a love that's remaining. It's a love that's going to keep you through your singleness, dating years, marriage, and until you die, is this deep devotion to each other and to God.
Oh, that's amazing. I just want to say thank you guys. Honestly, like, every time I know in our circle we've heard Noah and Andrea always talk about this topic, but it never gets old. It's always like, you always say something new that's really like for any season of anybody's life, whether it's through singleness or when they're in a relationship. It's really, and you guys truly live that. Like, I can just see it from the way you guys look at each other. It's like so intense. I love it. I just stare sometimes. Creepy, but it's really truly beautiful. Like, and it's just, and you're raising your 4 boys, and they're gonna set that kind of standard in their life as well too for their partner, and it's amazing. So I just want to thank you guys again for
Thanks for having us, Bromley.
Thank you, Bromley.
So I'm so glad I was able. I don't know why I didn't do this sooner, but God has the perfect timing. So so thank you guys again, and I just want to tell you guys thank you guys for listening. If you guys have any questions, and if you guys want me to do another part, just let me know. But until next time, thank you guys. Bye bye. You guys say bye.
Bye bye.
Peace.